It is no coincidence that people say peace does not come by itself. It must be built, and built every day. Peace requires effort, responsibility, and conscious choice. The relevance of this is obvious, especially now, when the situation on the international stage is increasingly deteriorating. I think no one would argue with that. Emphasizing that Russia has long had close and constructive relations with many Latin American countries, we have always treated the states of this region with great respect as equal and independent partners. Close coordination established in the OPEC Plus format, which truly contributes to maintaining the stability of the global oil market. In each of the European countries I have mentioned, Slovenia, France, the Czech Republic, Portugal, Norway, Sweden, Austria, Switzerland, and Italy, our relations have deep historical roots, are full of examples of mutually beneficial partnership and enriching cultural cooperation. I believe you will agree that one of the key factors for the sustainable development and prosperity of humanity is international cooperation. In today's diverse and interconnected world, the ability of states to engage in constructive interaction directly determines overall stability and security. And open, honest partnership creates opportunities to address common, even the most difficult challenges. It is no coincidence that people say peace does not come by itself. It must be built, and built every day. Peace requires effort, responsibility, and conscious choice. The relevance of this is obvious, especially now, when the situation on the international stage is increasingly deteriorating. I think no one would argue with that. Long-standing conflicts are intensifying, and new serious tensions are emerging. At the same time, diplomacy, the search for consensus, and compromise solutions are increasingly being replaced by unilateral and often very dangerous actions. And instead of dialogue between states, we hear a monologue from those who, by virtue of their strength, consider it acceptable to dictate their will, decide fates, and issue orders. Dozens of countries around the world suffer from the disregard of their sovereign rights, from chaos and lawlessness, and lack the strength and resources to stand up for themselves. A reasonable way out of this situation is to more insistently demand that all members of the international community comply with international law, as well as to provide real support for the emerging new, more just, multipolar world order. A world order in which all states would have the right to their own model of development, to determine their own way of life independently, without external influence, while preserving their unique culture and traditions. I would like to note that Russia is sincerely committed to the ideals of a multipolar world. Our country has always pursued, and will continue to pursue, a balanced and constructive foreign policy that takes into account both our national interests and the objective trends of global development. With all partners interested in cooperation, we are committed to maintaining truly open and mutually beneficial relations, deepening ties in politics, the economy, and the humanitarian sphere, and jointly confronting acute challenges and common threats. Russia stands for strengthening the key, central role of the United Nations in world affairs, an organization that celebrated its anniversary last year. 80 years ago, our fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers, having triumphed in the Second World War, were able to unite, find a balance of interests, and agree on fundamental rules and principles of international relations. And they enshrined them in the UN Charter in its entirety, in its integrity and interconnection. The imperatives of this fundamental document, such as equality, respect for sovereignty, non-interference in internal affairs, and the resolution of disputes through dialogue, are still in demand today. And most importantly, we must proceed from the understanding that security should truly be comprehensive, which means equal and indivisible. And it cannot be ensured for some at the expense of the security of others. This principle is enshrined in fundamental international legal documents. Disregarding these basic, vitally important principles has never led to anything good and is unacceptable. This was clearly demonstrated by the crisis surrounding the market, which became a direct consequence of years of ignoring Russia's legitimate interests and a deliberate policy of creating threats to our security, towards the advancement of NATO to Russia's borders in defiance of the public promises made to us. I want to emphasize this. In defiance of the public promises made to us. Let me remind you that Russia has repeatedly put forward initiatives to build a new, reliable, and fair architecture of European and global security. We proposed options and rational solutions that could satisfy everyone in America, Europe, Asia, and around the world. We believe that it would be worthwhile to return to a substantive discussion of these proposals in order to establish the conditions under which a peaceful settlement of the conflict in Ukraine can be achieved, and the sooner, the better. It is precisely for a long-term and sustainable peace, one that reliably guarantees the security of everyone, that our country strives. Not everywhere, including in Kyiv and the capitals that support it, are ready for this. But we hope that the realization of this necessity will come sooner or later. Until that happens, Russia will continue to consistently pursue the goal it has set for itself. At the same time, I would like to emphasize once again, and ask you to keep this in mind in your work, that Russia is always open to building equal and mutually beneficial relations with all international partners for the sake of universal prosperity, well-being, and development. Ladies and gentlemen, at today's ceremony, we have ambassadors from 32 countries present, each of which is an active member of the UN and contributes to addressing the pressing issues on the global agenda. Many of you represent countries that are strategic partners and allies of Russia, with whom we are united by bonds of friendship, cooperation, and mutual support, and with whom we are actively working together within major international and regional organizations. I am confident that the Ambassador of Brazil will agree that our two countries, as founding members of BRICS, are consistent, like-minded partners when it comes to shaping a truly just and multipolar world order. Cooperation between Russia and Brazil is steadily developing and is being enriched with new, mutually beneficial projects in various fields. We have always provided assistance and support to our Cuban friends, standing in solidarity with their determination and doing everything we can to defend their civilizational and developmental process. The practice of Cuban-Russian alliance has stood the test of time and is based on the genuine mutual sympathy of our peoples and states. Together, we are implementing projects that are vital for the Cuban economy in the fields of energy, metallurgy, transport, culture, and medicine, and we are expanding our cultural exchanges and contacts. Emphasizing that Russia has long had close and constructive relations with many Latin American countries, we have always treated the states of this region with great respect as equal and independent partners. This fully applies to the countries represented here, Colombia, Peru, and Cuba. We believe that we have every opportunity to significantly expand our trade, investment, and commercial ties, as well as cooperation in healthcare and pharmaceuticals, education, and training of specialists. In the same spirit of partnership and trust, Russia is determined to further strengthen its cooperation with the countries of the Middle East and North Africa. A key role in this region is played by our friendly Russian diplomatic mission. Our relations are built on the basis of a treaty on comprehensive political cooperation. Our countries are implementing large-scale joint projects, including the construction of the Eldabaa nuclear power plant and the creation of Russian industrial zones in the Sevastopol area. In a month, it will be 100 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia. Bilateral partnership is successfully expanding and is comprehensive in nature, with close coordination established in the OPEC+ format, which truly contributes to maintaining the stability of the global oil market. We are counting on the restoration of relations. In each of the European countries I have mentioned, Slovenia, France, the Czech Republic, Portugal, Norway, Sweden, Austria, Switzerland, and Italy, our relations have deep historical roots, are full of examples of mutually beneficial partnership, and enriching cultural cooperation. The current state of bilateral relations between us and Russia leaves much to be desired for improvement. Dialogue and contacts, certainly not by our choice, have been sharply reduced and minimized, both at the official level and in business and public affairs. Cooperation on key international and regional issues has been frozen. We would like to believe that, over time, the situation will eventually change and our country will return to normal, constructive dialogue based on the principles of respect for national interests and consideration of legitimate security concerns. Russia has been and remains committed to precisely these approaches and to restoring the level of relations we need. In general, as I have noted more than once, we are open to mutually beneficial cooperation with all countries without exception. And naturally, we are interested in ensuring that the work of each of our best cooperation posts is as effective as possible.